Yeah, so we'll cover this section 40 to 46. Impossible to understand Lord's greatness without His mercy. Let's read some verses. Vishno Nuvirya Gananam Katamo Ratiha
Vishnu
Vishnu Priya Gananam Katamo Ratata
Yah Pativani Apikavir Vimame Rajamsi
Yahapativani
Yapativani
Ati Kavir
Epikavir Vimane
Vimame
Rajamsi
Rajamsi
Chashkambaya Swaraha Sakala Tripstam
Chaskambaya
Ayahaswaraha
Swarasakalatam Triprastam
Triprastam
Yasma Trisamyas Sadanad Urukampayanam
Yasmatrati
Smatra
Samya
Samya
Sadana
Sada
Durukampayanam.
Durukampyanam.
Yeah, please read.
Who can describe completely the prowess of Vishnu? Even the scientist who might have counted the particles of the atoms of the universe cannot do so, because it is he only who, in his form of Trivikrama, moved his leg effortlessly beyond the topmost planet, Satyaloka, up to the neutral state of the three modes of material nature, and all were moved.
Yeah. So these are this is the discussion between Lord Brahma and Narada Muni. Lord Brahma is the first living entity. So he's saying the glories of Lord Vishnu, saying, who can describe completely the prowess of nobody? So it's a rhetorical question. Rhetorical question means the question has the answer. So nobody can really. And then he says, even a scientist who can count particles of atoms in the universe, right? Take a handful of sand. If you want to count the number of particles in it, it's not easy. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, I can stop the wind, but I cannot control the mind. This is even more difficult to count the particles. Even if a person is capable of doing that, even then he cannot count the glories of the Lord. Because Lord is so great, right? In his form as Trivikrama or Vamana, he just lifted his leg in 1 second and move from Bhuloka to the even the coverings of the universe. He pierced the coverings of the universe, and from there the Garbha water from Garbhodaka water came down to material world, Ganga water. So that is his prowess. So how one can even glorify him? Yeah, please read.
He is known as Trivikrama because once, in his incarnation of Vamana, he expanded his leg beyond the highest planetary system, Satyaloka, and reached the neutral state of the modes of nature, called the covering of the material world. There are 7 layers of material coverings over the material sky, and the Lord could penetrate even those coverings. With his toe, he made a hole through which the water of the causal ocean filters into the material sky, and the current is known as the sacred Ganges, which purifies the planets of the three worlds.
The Lord is so it's not easy to even praise him. Nantam vidamyaham amimunayo grajaste.
Nantam vidami ami munayo grujamste.
Mayaste
Maya balasya purushasya kuto varaye.
Maya balasya
Mayaste
purusasya
Purusatya
kuto
Putraya
varagi.
Gayan gunan dasa satana adideva.
Gayan Gundan
Adideva
Deva
Seshodhuna samavasyati nasya param.
Seshodhan
Seshodhanati
Samavasyati
Nasyaparam.
Hmm.
Neither I nor all the sages born before you know fully the omnipotent personality of Godhead, so that what can others who are born after us know about him? Even the first incarnation of the Lord, namely Shesha, has not been able to reach the limit of such knowledge, although he is describing the qualities of the Lord with 1,000 faces.
So Sesha, who is an incarnation just after Lord, even he is unable to describe your qualities with his 1,000 mouths. Gayan Gunan Dasha Satanana. Dasha Satanana is 1,000. Adi Deva is is right, the first incarnation, Adi Deva. Sesho Dhunapi Samavasyate Nasya Param. If he cannot describe, how can we describe? Yeah. Is Lord himself is saying, I am myself incapable, Lord Brahma. Neither I nor all the sages born before you. Right? He is the son of Brahma, so he was just telling about other sages.
The omnipotent personality of Godhead has three primary potencies, namely the internal, external, and marginal potencies, with unlimited expansion of these three energies. As such, the expansion of his potencies can never be calculated by anyone because even the personality of Godhead himself, as the incarnation of Sesha, cannot estimate the potencies, although he has been describing them continuously with his 1,000 faces.
Yesham sa esha Bhagavan dayayedananta.
Bhagavan Dayananta
Sarvatmana Shrita Pado Yadi Nirvikalpyam Nirvyakilika.
Sarvatmanasita Pado Dayati Nirvayati
Te dushtaram atitaranti chadeva mayam.
Dustaram Atitadeva Mayam
Naisham mamahamiti dhi srisrigala bhakshye.
Naisham Mayamaham iti Srivasala Bhaksye.
Yeah, please read.
Translation. If anyone who is specifically favored by the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, due to unalloyed surrender onto the service of the Lord, can overcome the insurmountable ocean of illusion and can understand the Lord. But those who are attached to Prabhu, that left lo helping Prabhu.
Yeah.
You zoomed a lot actually. To this, which is meant to be eaten at the end by dogs and jackals, cannot do so.
Can you see it, Prabhu? Is it
Yeah,
visible?
little bit right, Prabhu. That. Or zoom out.
Oh, okay. 1 second.
Left side, it is just trimmed down. Now it is good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
The unalloyed devotees of the Lord know the glories of the Lord in the sense they can understand how great the Lord is and how great is his expansion of diverse energy. Those who are attached to the perishable body can hardly enter into the realm of the science of Godhead. The whole materialistic world, based on the conception of the material body as the self, is ignorant of the science of God. The materialist is always busy for the welfare of the material body, not only his own, but also those of children, kinsmen, communitymen, countrymen. The materialists have many branches of philanthropic and altruistic activities from the political, national, international angle of vision. But none of the field work can go beyond the jurisdical of the misconception of identifying the material body with the spirit soul. Unless, therefore, one is saved from the wrong conception of the body and the soul, there is no knowledge of Godhead. And unless there is knowledge of God, all advancement of material civilization, however dazzling, should be considered a failure.
Yeah. So, but anyone who is specifically favored by Lord due to unalloyed surrender. So, when will Lord favor a devotee? Yeah. So this is the qualification. Because one is one is completely surrendered to the Lord. That is the only reason Lord favors a devotee. So when that happens, he can overcome insurmountable ocean of illusion. So this middle existence is very difficult to surrender to the Lord fully. And but if by choice, right, we all have a free will. If we choose to surrender to the Lord, then Lord's mercy will be upon us. So many devotees always ask, no, to Lord and to other devotees, Prabhu, please, shower your mercy like that. But that mercy comes when there is surrender. Without surrender, mercy won't flow. Even if the devotee or Lord wants to, because our attachment to material existence and material body, will not let the mercy from the Lord to flow up to us, right? Yeah. So the unalloyed devotees of the Lord know the glories of the Lord in the sense that they can understand how great the Lord is and how great is his expansion of diverse energy. Those who are attached to the perishable body can hardly enter into the realm of science of God. Yeah. So if we have attachment to body, or its extensions, then it's
Yeah,
very
that's
difficult to enter into the or experience the bliss of Krishna consciousness, because our material attachments become blocker. The materialist is always busy working for the welfare of body, not only his but also those of his children, kinsmen, countrymen. The materialist may have many branches of philanthropic and altruistic activities from a political, national, and international angle of vision. Yeah, it could be one's own family, one's own self, family,
10. Oh, 12, 12, 12.
state, like that. So it's never ending. Yeah. Yeah. So in this way, unless therefore one is saved from the wrong conception of body and soul, means aham mama, right? Mamaham iti this is the conception. If unless that conception is taken away, one cannot really surrender to the Lord, and without surrender to the Lord, Lord's favor is not there. Okay? Yeah. So nirviklikyam, nirvyalikam. This is the qualification. What is nirvyalikam means? Without pretension, right? full surrender to the Lord. Ashrita pada. So only those who fully surrender to the Lord without any reservation, sarvatmana, for them Lord's favor is available. It's a choice. It doesn't have any material qualification. So one may ask, what is the qualification to become a devotee? One may be a great devotee, right? So I think we are going to read. Yeah. Okay. So next verse will tell who are those people who have such surrender. So this is difficult to pronounce. So we'll just read the translation. Okay. So please go ahead and read.
O Narada, although the potencies of the Lord are unknowable and immeasurable, still because we are all surrendered souls, we know how he acts through Yogamaya potencies. And similarly, the potencies of the Lord are also known to the all-powerful Shiva, the great king of the atheist family, namely Prahlada Maharaja, Swayambhuva Manu, his wife Shatarupa, his sons and daughters like Priyavrata, Uttanapada, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti, Prachina Barhi, Rubhu, Anga, the father of Vena, Maharaja Dhruva, Ikshvaku, Aila, Muchukunda, Maharaja, Janaka, Gadhi, Raghu, Ambarisha, Sagara, Gaya, Nahusa, Mandhata, Alarka, Satadhanve, Anu, Rantideva, Bhishma, Bali, Amurtaraya, Dilipa, Saubhari, Utanka, Sibi, Devala, Pippalada, Saraswata, Uddhava, Parashara, Bhurisena, Vibhishana, Hanuman, Sukadeva Goswami, Arjuna, Arshtisena, Vidura, Shrutadeva, etc.
Yeah. So Lord's potencies are all, are immeasurable and we cannot even know. But for those who are surrendered souls, right? Only surrender is the qualification. But if one is surrendered, they can know by his Lord's activities, and now the celebrated people who know that is described, starting with Lord Shiva, all-powerful Lord Shiva, and then Prahlad, and then Swayambhu Manu, his wife Satarupa. So all these are great personalities which we have studied in Bhagavatam, right? So all these actually will come in 4th, 5th, 6th cantos. There is, father of Vena, Anga, right? Anga is a great king. Dhruva Maharaj, Aila, Muchukunda will come. Janaka Maharaj, everyone knows. Ambarisha will come. All these personalities come, and these are all surrendered souls of the Lord, and they know very well. Just like Mahajanas. Mahajanas are only few, but this is an exhaustive list of all the great devotees who are fully surrendered and who are all part of Srimad Bhagavatam, who all know the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So Lord is immeasurable. Lord cannot be fully understood, but still these devotees know who Lord is.
All the great devotees of the Lord, as mentioned above, who flourished in the past or present, and all the devotees of the Lord who will come in the future, are aware of the different potencies of the Lord, along with the potency of his name, quality, pastimes, entourage, personality, etc. And how do they know? Certainly, it is not by mental speculation nor by any attempt by dint of limited instruments of knowledge. By the limited instruments of knowledge, either the senses or the material instruments like microscopes and telescopes, one cannot even fully know the Lord's material potencies, which are manifested before our eyes.
Yeah. So it's not by material, it's only by surrender. That is the point. So only by surrender one can understand the Supreme Lord. So one may wonder, okay, these are all celebrated personalities. Does it mean that, one need to have a very high qualification as birth? Because you see, many of these are kings, and great rishis, the Lord Shiva. So I'm not one of them. So can I ever achieve perfection in devotional path? So that will be answered in the next verse. Te vai vidanti atitaranti cha deva mayam.
Vedante
Sri Sudrahuna Sabara api papa jiva. Yajadbhuta krama parayana sila shikshas. Tiya jana api kim u shutadharanaye.
Jano apikim Radharanaye.
Please read.
Surrendered souls, even from groups leading sinful lives, such as women, the labor class, the mountaineers, and the Siberians, or even the birds and bees, can also know about the signs of Godhead and become liberated from the clutches of the illusionary energy by surrendering onto the pure devotees of the Lord and by following in their footsteps in devotional service.
So another key point is mentioned here. So it doesn't matter what one's material qualification is. Even people from, so this is what we see, even Americans, Europeans, Africans are able to take to devotion service because in the recent times they have surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, right? So that is exactly what is mentioned here in this verse. The material qualification, whether one is in the mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, doesn't matter, right? Even birds and beasts can also, what to speak of humans, even birds and beasts can surrender themselves, can also know about the signs of God and become liberated from the clutches of illusion by surrendering unto the pure devotees of the Lord, right? What is mentioned here? Shila Shiksha. Shila Shiksha means trained by, right? Devotees. If one is submits himself to training, right? That is why we take initiation. Why we need to take initiation? We are voluntarily surrendering to follow the instructions, right? So that is what is Diksha. There is no need for it. I mean, there is no need or compulsion by duty, but one chooses to do it, right? Voluntarily surrender one's desires, one's plans, or whatever you may call, to follow the instructions of an advanced devotee. So that is the qualification. Yeah.
Sometimes there are inquiries as to how one can surrender onto the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 18.66, the Lord asked Arjuna to surrender onto him, and therefore persons unwilling to do so question where God is and to whom they should surrender. The answer to such questions or inquiries is given herein very properly. The personality of Godhead may not be present before one's eye, but if one is sincere in wanting such guidance, the Lord will send a bona fide person who can guide one properly back home, back to Godhead. There is no need of material qualifications for making progress on the path of spiritual realization. In the material world, when one accepts some particular type of service, he is required to possess some particular type of qualification also. Without this, one is unfit for such service. But in the devotional service of the Lord, the only qualification required is surrender. Surrendering oneself is in one's own hand. If one likes, he can surrender immediately without delay, and that begins his spiritual life. The bona fide representative of God is as good as God himself. Or in other words, the loving representative of the Lord is more kind and more easy to approach. A sinful soul cannot approach the Lord directly, but such a sinful man can very easily approach a pure devotee of the Lord. And if one agrees to put himself under the guidance of such a devotee of the Lord, he can also understand the signs of God and can also become like the transcendental pure devotee of the Lord, and thus get his liberation back to Godhead, back home for eternal happiness.
Yeah. So there is no, so here is an important point. Yeah. So there is no need of material qualification for making progress on the path of spiritual realization. In the material world, when one accepts some particular type of service, he is required to possess some particular type of qualification. So if you look at material world, to perform anything, you need a qualification, right? If you want to be an engineer, you have to have a degree as an engineer. If you want to be a medical professional, you need a medical degree. And without this, one is unfit for this service, right? We cannot do a operation without being a surgeon. So that is a pre-qualification. But in devotion service of the Lord, the only qualification required is surrender. So this is the main point. So one may say, oh, I'm in the mode of passion. So for example, if somebody is in the mode of goodness, Bhagavad Gita says, he is kind of forced to be attracted to worship of demigods. If one is in the mode of passion, he is forced to be attracted to worship of, yakshas or people who give riches, things like that. And if one is in the mode of ignorance, they will be by nature will be forcefully attracted to worship of, even pretas, things like that. That is the natural force. But if one chooses to surrender to the, devotee of the Lord or to the Lord himself, right? So there is, the thing changes. So if one cannot say, I'm influenced by mode of this, so I cannot worship the Lord, right? So one has the free will. If he chooses and willingly surrenders, even though there will be internal force, if suppose you are in the mode of passion, you still have those passionate things pushing you. But if you have chosen to surrender to the Lord, then Lord will take care of it. So Lord's mercy will flow to you, and you will be able to surrender. Surrendering oneself is in one's hand. This is the key. This is the reason. So devotion service has no pre-qualification materially. This is a very important point to understand. I'm not sure if you're all getting it. So one cannot say, I don't have qualification to be a devotee. Right? There is no material qualification or disqualification. Because you don't have money doesn't mean you cannot be a devotee, right? Or because you are a pious person, you can be a devotee. No, even that is not a pre-qualification. So nothing material is a pre-qualification for a devotee. The only qualification is willingness of the person to surrender, to follow the instruction. Surrender is the only qualification. Okay? Whether you are a king or whether you are a pauper, doesn't matter. Whether you are a poor or whether you are rich. Whether you are in the mode of goodness or in the mode of ignorance. None of that is a qualification. So that's why one may be from any type, whether it is low born, Sudra, or labor class, mountaineer, or women, or doesn't matter. Birds, beasts, also doesn't matter. If you are willing to surrender, you are qualified to become a devotee. That's the only qualification. Yeah. So a sinful soul cannot approach the Lord directly, but such a sinful man can very easily approach a pure devotee of the Lord. Can you give some examples? A sinful soul cannot approach the Lord, but he can approach a bona fide devotee. Any thoughts? We have to apply, then only we'll understand things better. So Prabhupada, whenever he makes a statement, it has a lot of backing. Many examples can be there. So why is Prabhupada stating this? One example is Valmiki, right? He was a hunter, but he became a devotee by surrendering to who? Who did he surrender to? Valmiki Muni.
Narad Muni.
Narada.
Yeah, Narada. So you see, so in the recent times, Americans, are drug addicts. They all became devotees by surrendering to
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada.
Jagai Madai, they surrendered to who?
Nityanand Prabhu.
Nityananda Prabhu.
Then they became devotees. In fact, people of Kali Yuga, you can all say sinful souls, right? So we all surrendered because, we took shelter of a pure devotee of, Srila Prabhupada. So it's like that. So we don't have any qualification to directly approach Lord. Even though we are sinful, still we are able to get shelter. So all of this is so because even if you want to take to the path of jnana, you need a qualification. You need to be very, very knowledgeable or very intelligent. You need to have a lot of power of discrimination. If you want to become a yogi, you need to have sense control. You need to have, what else is needed for practice of yoga? You need to have good, healthy body, right? You need to have no distractions. You need to have a very, non-disturbing environment to practice and perfect in yoga. So even the practices of yoga require a material qualification. But devotion service doesn't require any pre-qualification. The only pre-qualification is one's own surrender to follow the instructions of a bona fide guru. Right? So even the most lowest person can achieve the highest perfection. Yeah. So this is the most important point, right? If one agrees to put himself under the guidance of such a devotee of the Lord, he can understand the signs of God and can also become like the transcendental pure devotee of the Lord, and thus get his liberation back to Godhead, back home for eternal happiness. Okay. So this is next section. Okay. Why is this? Okay. Any questions so far?
Prabhuji, initially in one of the slides, we saw about where it says scheduled incarnations of the Lord. So when it says scheduled incarnations, so does that mean that Lord is scheduled to take an avatar in say Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Kali Yuga, Dwapar Yuga? Or is it more on situation based?
Yeah. It's scheduled because it follows a time scale.
Okay.
And the whole show is run by time. Okay, the whole show is run by time. Time creates situation. With time is actually not just a measure of change, it is the cause of change. Okay, so it's a very powerful concept. Everything that happens in existence is run by time. And when certain, that's why, Jyotish exists. As per Jyotish, for example, there is a time when, universal, or there is a great war that is expected to happen, right?
Mhm.
So it will happen, and the parties will be chosen who have the right karma to participate in it. So one on the winning side, one on the losing side, and it is kind of predetermined events, or over period of time is predetermined, and so even though it appears to be like, okay, there is a activity done by Hiranyakashipu to incite Prahlad to pray for the appearance of Lord, but still it is kind of a scheduled event in the scale of time, right? So in that sense, it is a scheduled incarnation, or it happens according to time and time. So that's why the verse in Bhagavad Gita says, so yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuddhas dharmasya. He will appear, every millennium after millennium, right? Because people are like that. People perform karmic activities that time the incarnations accordingly.
So either the Lord will come, his disciples, or his agents.
Correct. Yeah. So Lord will keep visiting the the material world to inspire people to go back to Godhead. Yeah. So sometimes he comes himself, or he sends his incarnations, or he will send his devotees, right? But every yuga, at least there is one yuga avatar and one lila avatar. For example, in this Kali Yuga, who is the yuga avatar? Yuga avatar means one who teaches the principles of religion for the age.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
And who is the what is the I said? Yuga avatar, Leela avatar. Leela means one who performs activities. Right? So that is Kalki, who comes at the end. Yeah, Kalki. Yeah. So like that. So, and they come, like that. So, and in between there might be other powerful, great devotees. Time and again they come, right? So there will be more devotees than incarnations, like that.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. And Shaktavis avatar also came, which is Buddha. Buddha is a Shakta avatar. So I'll end the call here, 15 minutes early, because the next section is different. We have also boat festival in 30 minutes. Okay, thank you all.
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna.